It may seem silly to have a video called "How Long Should My Speech Be?" when you already know how long all three of your speeches in this class will be. The first, our self-intro speech, is 5 to 7 minutes long. The informative speech is 6 to 8 minutes long, and the persuasive speech is 7 to 9 minutes long. But we want to ask this question, how long should my speech be? Because there are other circumstances in which we need to know how long to talk. And we also need to know how to practice our speech so that it fits within a time range. The audience has expectations when they come to your speech. They often have expectations about what you might talk about, what the topic of the day is if you're on a panel of speakers, and they have an expectation for how long you'll talk. Think about when you go to class. You have an expectation for how long that class is going to last because it's scheduled for 50 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes. If your instructor just keeps talking past the end of class, people become uncomfortable because this violates their expectations. I remember one time we had a banquet with a featured speaker. The featured speaker was supposed to talk for 15 minutes. And we knew that ahead of time, so we scheduled the food to be brought out 15 minutes after he started speaking. Well, he went on and spoke for a half an hour, so he went double the time allotted to him. There were banquet tables lined up along the sides of the room, and you could see the staff filling them with food items. And the audience became visibly restless because they had an expectation of when they were going to eat. Knowing the time range for your speech is important to practicing because it will help you focus in on how long your speech really needs to be in order to fit into that time range. Let's take our first speech, for example, which is a 5 to 7 minute speech. When practicing, you want to aim for 6 minutes each time you practice. That way, if your speech runs a little long, a little past 6 minutes, or a little under 6 minutes, you're still within the time range of 5 to 7 minutes. When preparing your speech, you can gauge how long each section of your speech needs to be based on the time range. Take a look at this chart. For a 6-minute speech, you can see how long each part of the speech needs to be. The body of your speech comprises about 90% of everything that you'll present during the speech. So each main point should be about 30% of your total speech time. For a 6-minute speech, that's 1 minute and 45 seconds each. For the introduction and the conclusion, which should each be 5% of your speech, those will be about 20 seconds. Now, you don't need to hit these right on the dot. That's not important. And it's okay if your main points aren't exactly the same size, but you generally want them to be balanced out and to be the same size. So for example, if main point 1 is 2 minutes and 15 seconds and main point 2 is 1 minute and 30 seconds, that's fine, they're still balanced. But what you want to avoid is something where main point 1 goes on for 3 minutes, main point 2 is 30 seconds, and main point 3 is only 20 seconds. That's an unbalanced speech, so you want to avoid that. As you saw on that chart, when you break a speech down into its parts, no part is very long at all for a 6-minute speech. And you can imagine if you add a few minutes onto that for your later speeches, they're still not very long. You're talking about maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes per main point, and that's very easy to handle. So when you write up your material, it's fine if you have too much material at the beginning because just like a good essay, you're going to pare it down at the end. But as you're cutting it and as you're trying to figure out what should I keep in this speech and what should go, focus on making each of the main points that proportion of the speech from the chart that we just looked at. Knowing how long your speech should be will help you meet audience expectations and help you plan your practice sessions for hitting that target range.